Hello and welcome to another episode of Advanced WordPress Theme Development. So far we have been dealing with PHP. Now I think that it's the right time to set up the Webpack and Babel so that we can make our JavaScript files and CSS file modular so that our directory structure is more organized and easy to work with. Okay, start. So the first thing we're going to do is we will go to our project, which is Aquila, which is our theme. Then we'll go to the assets directory, and over here first of all we want to ensure that the node is installed. So if you haven't installed the node on your computer, then you can just go onto node, node.js, download, and then you can go ahead and download node.js from here. Okay, so if you don't know what Node.js is a JavaScript runtime which is built on Chrome's VS JavaScript engine. It also comes with NPM, which is Node Package Manager. When you actually install the Node.js, the NPM will come along with that, and it will allow us to install all of our packages. Okay, so assuming that you've already installed and set it up, we're going to jump on to creating the package.json file. So what we'll do is we do npm init yes, and this is going to install, and this is going to go ahead and create the package.json file for us. So you can see that inside of the assets directory, it has created the package.json file, which will contain the information about our package and all the dependencies it has. So let's rename this to Aquila because that's the name of our theme. Let's keep the version the same. Let's do description Aquila theme packages, and then which is our main file. So main.js will be our main file. Do we have any script? We'll come back to the scripts. Do we have any keyword? Do we have any keywords? Yes, we do. We have WordPress as keyword. And then themes, you can write more keywords if you want. Author, you put down your name there. I'll put mine. License, for WordPress we use MIT. License, is this private? Yes, it is private. I'm not going to publish these packages on npm, so I'm just going to do private. Okay, and we also put the browser list, so list of the browsers supported, and we'll just make it defaults. Okay, now just to let you know that in this video I won't be going in depth for Webpack and Babel. Just be basic information. I would really recommend that if you're not familiar with Webpack and Babel, I suggest you go ahead and take out my tutorial on Webpack and Babel. So you go to codeytek.com/courses. So you go to codeytek.com/courses, and then this is my Babel tutorials, and then you also have the Webpack. Okay, so I would really highly recommend that if you're not familiar with Webpack and Babel, you can get in-depth knowledge about Babel and Webpack through these courses, and it will also tell you what goes behind the scenes. How does the Webpack works, how does the Babel work, so you're going to get complete knowledge about these. But for this video purposes, I would say to you that I will give you just the basic knowledge. So even if you don't go to these tutorials, it's fine, but it will be good. It is like good to have information if you're not well aware with Babel and Webpack, so you can get all of the information here. Okay, awesome. So Webpack basically is a module bundler. Okay, so let's say we write a file called main.js which has got like 1,000 lines of code. It really makes it hard to debug if, for example, we have an error, or if we are debugging it, you have to go through a big file compared to if we can break those files into smaller chunks. For example, if you had like a carousel over here, we can have a file for carousel. If you had menu on top, then you can have a separate file for menu, and then we're only focusing on those files. And eventually what Webpack is going to do is going to take all of the files and it's going to club it together, bundle it together, and give you one single file. The reason for this is because we don't want to have multiple network requests onto our theme, because as you're aware that for performance reasons, it is best to have as less number of requests in your site. So rather than having like main.js and a menu.js and carousel.js and including them separately and making HTTP requests to each one of them in your theme, it is better to have just main.js, work on different files and let Webpack bundle them together eventually when you are done, like when you're deploying a site, and then just include one file. Okay, so Webpack allows you to have a modular pattern and break your JavaScript files and CSS files into smaller pieces of components. Okay, and so Babel basically is a JavaScript compiler, and it transpiles or converts the modern JavaScript, let's say ES 2015 and plus, like ES Next, etc., and it converts into a JavaScript that all browsers can understand, even the older browsers, because the modern JavaScript like ES6, ES Next, not all browsers will be able to understand. And if you're thinking which browser will be the last to implement anything, well, you've guessed it right, it's Internet Explorer, isn't it? Okay, so that's why we're going to use the Webpack and Babel, and let's begin then with that information. Okay, so we've created this file, and then we'll continue from here. So I'm going to install some of the packages that we require to set this up. So how it's going to work is that we're going to be using the Webpack dev server. So Webpack dev server is going to allow us to run our Webpack and constantly watch for any changes when we make it into our CSS or JavaScript file, for that matter. Okay, so for that there are a bunch of packages we're going to install. So I'll come back to my blog. This blog will later be available for you. I'll leave the link in the description below, but I'll just copy it, and then while doing it I will explain it to you step by step. Okay, so let's paste it. So just to tell you, we are going to install Webpack, then Webpack CLI, Babel core, Babel preset Env, preset React, Babel loader, and then clean Webpack plugin, file loader, mini CSS extract plugin, optimized CSS asset Webpack plugin, CSS nano, style loader, uglify JS Webpack plugin, cross Env. If you feel a little overwhelmed with so many packages, well, don't be. I just want to ensure that I install them all at one go rather than doing it one by one. And then I'm going to explain each and every package as to why we are using it. So don't worry about it. Okay. So Webpack and Webpack CLI. So you understand that is for Webpack and the Webpack dev server, and then Babel core. So we need the Babel. So we need the core, and then I'll come back to the preset Env and rest of the packages. Okay. So by the way, I think I should tell you about the cross env. So let me show you. So if you take a look at the cross env package, what it does, so it says that the cross env runs the scripts and sets and use environment variables across platform. So most Windows command prompts will choke when you set environment variables with node env production like that. So basically what this is saying is that this is going to allow you to have set different environments, because in production we would like to have the minified files, and in the development then we probably wouldn't want to have the minified file. So it will allow you to set your node environments. So you can read more about it as to you can see that it runs scripts that set and use environment variables across platform. So that's why we are going ahead and using it, but you can get more information about this over here. Okay. Alright, so let's continue. So the next thing we're going to do is, inside of the source directory we'll create a directory called JS. Okay, and inside of the JS I'm just going to move my main.js. Alright, and then I can have a couple of files inside of main.js. Like I already have the main.js, I can also have single.js. Oops. I can also have single.js, because on single pages, let's say that we have got carousel available on the single page, but it's not available on other pages. So I don't want to include the single.js on all of the pages. I don't want to include the JavaScript for that on all of the pages. But main.js is something that probably would require on all of the pages. Okay, so something that we need for all of the pages, we would keep it in main.js, but if it's page specific, like a single.js only has something that's not required at other places, then we would put that in the single.js. Okay, so and the next thing we're going to do is, so this is for our JavaScript. We would also have a directory for images, so we'll name it as image, and then let's get an image. So I'll go to Pixabay, so I'll just paste it here. So we have cat.jpg. So inside of the image we have got cat.jpg, and so that's the image that we have. And then, so remember we spoke about that we should make things modular. So this clock, this JavaScript for the clock widget that we had created, this can go inside of a separate component. So we can create a directory called clock, and inside of this we can create index.js, and just go ahead and copy the whole thing and then paste it inside of the index.js. So this can contain just the clock JavaScript. Okay, and then inside of the main.js, so this is our main file where we're going to include all of the JavaScript that is going to be required throughout the site. So clock widget is something that's going to be required throughout the site because it's a widget. So that's why we'll import it here. So in ES6 we have import statement available. So we're just going to import it, clock, and then that's it. So you don't have to write like clock index.js. Well, if you have index inside of clock, it will automatically look for any file that starts with index.js. So even if you mention like this, or if you mention like this, it's the same thing. Okay, so just keep it like this. And then we also need to import this image so that our Webpack can actually go ahead and put that in the build folder at the time of building it. So I'll just say images and import. Where is the image? So images, I have to come out one directory, then I have image, and then I have cat.jpg. That's it. Okay, so while this is done, I'm going to go ahead and install all of the packages. So I'll come over here and then I'll just hit enter, and this is going to install all of these packages for us. And while it is doing that, we're also going to create a Webpack config. So I'm going to go over here and create a JavaScript file, and we'll name it as webpack.config.js. I think this is already a JavaScript file, so I'll just leave it like that. So you can see that it is webpack.config.js. Okay, so that's what we're going to create. And so the Webpack, for the Webpack configuration, how it works is that, so then since this is a common JS file, I'm going to do module.exports. Okay, so just to let you know, by default, Webpack, when you install and set up Webpack, it already has the webpack.config.js file available. However, if you want to override it and you go ahead and set up your configuration, then you can just create webpack.config.js like we are doing and set up our own configuration. So that's what we're doing over here. So since you may have to disambiguate in your Webpack config between development and production builds, we can export a function from our Webpack configuration instead of exporting the object. So normally, if you would have worked with Webpack, you would have seen that if we export an object like this. But since we are going to be having the configuration different basis whether we are into production or development mode, we will export a function like this, and this function would accept two parameters, which is env, and then we'll also accept the argv. So I'll explain to you what these are. So the env is for environment, and so it's an environment option, and if you want to know more about it, you can go on to webpack.js.org, API, CLI, and environment options, and this is where, yeah, so it will give you more information about the environment option. These all link will be available in the GitHub code, where in the GitHub code, so you can always take it from there. Okay, and then the argv is the options map, and this describes the options passed to the Webpack with keys such as output file name and optimize, minimize, etc. So if you want to know, again, if you want to know more about it, Webpack JS configuration, types, exporting a function. So this is the place where it explains to you about the argv and also for the environment as well. So you can check it out. Okay. By the way, if this is overwhelming to you, please ensure you watch my Webpack and Babel series, because that's where I explain every detail in basics, and then this is going to be just a little advanced from there. Okay, from that point. But again, if this makes sense to you, if you're able to follow along, then it's completely fine. Okay, great. So this is for environment, and this is for the options map. Okay. The next thing we'll do is, so since we are exporting a function, okay, so we're using the ES6 function. This is how we write, and then we're passing an object inside of that function instead of directly passing the object. So this is going to take an entry and an output, which means which file do you want to take as an entry, and then which is the file where you want to output. So what we're going to do is we'll do entry, and then it's going to take an entry. So I'm just going to create an entry on top. So const entry, and let's just keep it empty for now. So this is going to be entry, and then it's going to need the output. So again, I'll put output, and I'm going to create a constant called output on top, and let's just keep it empty for now. Okay, and then okay, let's do the entry output first. All right, so for the entry, we basically need the path for that. So in the entry, it's going to be an object, not array actually, even for this one. Okay, so for entry, let's say that we want to have two entry files. So one is main, which will have the path up until main.js. So we can create a constant on top, and we can call it like JS dir, and then we have path available in common JS. So I'll just require path. So const path equals require path. So path comes pre-installed when you in the node. So I'll just use that path function. So path function has a method called resolve, and it takes dir name, which is the directory name, and then so this is going to give me the path up until my directory, and then inside of the directory I will have source. So it will give me the path up until the assets, and then we have the source. So I'll do // source, and then / then I have the JS directory. So the JS directory is this. Okay, so let's also quickly create. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the main.js path over here. So I'll put JS directory, and then plus, so concatenating it, and then inside of JS we have the main.js. So that's what I'll put over here. Okay, so this is my entry for the main, and then I can have multiple entries. So I can have single, okay, and then I'll put single, which is this one right here. Okay, so I'll paste it. Alright, so this is single, and similarly I can have more paths. So we need a path for our, so we have basically our image directory. So I will do img directory, and this is, instead of JS, this will be img. Okay, we're also going to have the build directory after it's built. So I'll just put the path for that, and I'll just call it build. So eventually this is where it's going to output, right? So it's going to take all of the code from the main.js and bundle it together, whatever files we have imported, it's going to bundle it together inside of the build directory. Okay, same thing goes for single also. It's going to bundle it together and give us like single.js inside of the build directory. And so since we need an output, so inside of the output it would need the path. So I'll put path and I'll put build directory. Okay, and then it'll also need the file name. The file name would be JS, and then whatever the name of the file is. So what this is going to do is basically it's asking for where do you want to bundle it and where do you want to put it after bundling. So I want to put it inside of the build directory. That's what we're doing over here. So if you take a look, this is build directory, and this is we're just telling that go and put make sure you output everything after bundling inside of the build directory. And the file name, what will be the file name when you're outputting? The file name will be inside of JS directory. It would be whatever the name of the file is. So in case the main.js will become inside of JS directory, will become main.js, and for single it'll become single.js. So that's how it works. Okay. All right. For image directory we'll come back, but yeah, this is the basic setup. So we're good so far, and in the next video we will continue further about the configuration of Webpack and Babel as well, and our packages are anyways installed, so this is good. Okay, so I hope you did like the video. If you did, please give a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and do star my repository at imranhsayed Aquila, and thank you so much to all these beautiful people who have given me stars. And please star my repository to support my work and follow me on GitHub. And if you do like my work, you can nominate me on stars.github.com for a star award. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye bye.